yesterday from Savannah, and the guy we were just talking about Austin, we were talking about Texas, and he was just, the guy was from El Salvador, and he was just like, just like people in this country just don't appreciate anything, just have no idea. It's the greatest country on earth, and like they just have no idea. And that really also was and is my big takeaway for spending time over there. Just how unbelievably lucky we are here. And I know, I mean, we started the conversation from out there about just how fucked up everything is, and of course it is. But like, look, man, I'm like a guy who fucking puts on makeup and says lines for a living, and I can come on here, the biggest platform in the world, and we can talk about it. And right. the biggest threat, to me is that like I'm going to lose an acting role. You know what I mean?
Right,
it's like,
right.
That's a real thing, man. And I just think, this country is just, I just think so many people in this country have no idea how good they have it and how great, to me, it's the best country on earth.
It certainly is, and it's just we don't have a reference. If you're here your entire life and this is how you view things, and you're like, well, this place is fucked up.
That's right.
And it certainly is. It
Sure.
certainly, I mean, we're human. Humans, we're filled with all sorts of flaws. And this culture and the way our civilization is run is filled with all sorts of flaws. But it's the best example we have for a free society.
That's right.
Currently on Earth. Which is hard for people to believe, especially people that look at all the inequality and look at all the chaos and look at all the things that are wrong with this country. Mm-hmm. And there's certainly a lot. It's
Absolutely.
Still the best place.
Agreed.
Because it's the best place to communicate. It's the best place to openly communicate. That's why things like what we were talking about, like with FBI being embedded in Twitter, trying to suppress certain narratives, it's so dangerous because that's what leads you to communist China. Mm-hmm. That's what when the state has total control over the narrative, and then the people that are involved in financing all that and profiting from all that are the ones that put these people in power and then control how the masses behave and think and communicate. It's leading us down this slippery road, and that's what scares the shit out of people, and I think rightly so.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, and I think we also at the same time, I think we need to be vigilant. We need to be educated. We need to look into these things, and I think we also need to not jump to conclusions. And I think we need to be very cognizant about who we're listening to, and honestly, it's platforms like yours. It's finding people that we trust, that we just know, okay, look, this guy at least is telling his truth. There's no agenda behind it. They're not trying to convince you of anything. It's so unbelievably vital to hang on to that and to know that people do have their hands in this information.
Yeah, do they have any kind of podcast like this in Russia? I mean, is that even possible to do?
I don't think so, man. I mean, again, like I'm not,
Right.
I remember when I was there, there was the Moscow Times and there was the Exile. I know you've had, right on, man. Yeah, it was there was this explosion of free press and really like gonzo journalism over there, and but I don't know, to be honest with you, man, when I was there, I was a little bit sickened by the expat community. There was a real sort of like hedonistic, I mean, look, I think probably a lot of it was me being kind of self-important, and I was on this kind of like acting pilgrimage, and I took myself super seriously. But, there's a lot of people that were going over there to, be with as many Russian women as they could, and there's a lot of people going over there to sort of, I felt pretty that they were exploiting, and there was very distinct different Moscows when I was there. There was the Western version of Moscow, which was just, totally different. And then there was, for me, what I think was so lucky is that I was going to school with Russians, with people, you'd have kids who would bring their entire families down from the mountains, from the Caucasus. You'd have like 9 people in a little apartment, and the whole family would be like cooking on a hot pot because this one kid had this opportunity to go to school there. And it was this like level of support and encouragement, and the relationships that I formed with these people. We grew up so wildly differently. The connections were so beautiful, and you had. I don't know. I was really lucky that I got to be in Russia and in Moscow that way, and that's not an easy thing, and I'm worried about whether that's even possible now.
Did you learn Russian?
So yeah, I mean, when I was there, especially playing baseball, none of those guys spoke any English. I had a translator in school, but yeah, I got all right. I mean, one thing I've noticed that when I come home. When I'm around Russian people, I always try to speak a little Russian, and there's just this, this. I don't know whether it's pride, I don't know what it is, but I'll throw out a couple words, and they'll just answer in English. They're like, "Fuck you, motherfucker! I learned your language. I don't want to hear your fucking pig Russian, you butchering our. Who do you think you are, motherfucker? But while you were there, like there were people that spoke English, and they just would refuse to speak it over there. It's like not going to happen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you learn how to read it?
A little bit. That was harder. I mean, like if I really, take my time. But I mean, at that point I could barely read English. I mean, I was just such an asshole. I mean, I remember when I was there, we'd have these things called Black Tuesday, and all the teachers would come in, and they would sort of tell you whether you could continue or not. And they would kind of each break you down about like your strengths and your weaknesses. And you would just see people just crying their fucking eyes, like being devastated walking out of there. And I remember, I walked in there once, and these teachers were like, Jon, they're like, Jon, your talent is like a gem, but they're like, but it's completely unformed. You lack any semblance of elegance. And like they're saying this thing like push like they're saying, and then like you got like you're waiting for like the shoe to drop with the translator, and then they're like, we bet you've never read a book. And I was like, yep, gotcha. I've never, like bingo, you know what I mean? And then they're like, from this moment on, never let there be another day where you're not reading a book. And I took them up on that,
Wow.
Yeah, I took them up on that. It really, really was some of the best advice I ever got.
How do we shift that over to here?
Dude, gotta read.
Yeah.
Gotta fucking read.
You gotta take in other people's perspectives and work. It's a vital part of being a human being.
That's right.
And it takes a while for people to understand and read that, or understand and take that in. It's so important for the human condition, and it's such an unbelievably available resource here in America. And yet people would rather go on TikTok.
That's right.